How do you make a 65-year-old truck keep up with modern day traffic and activities? In this episode, we're going to be introducing our new build for this 1960 Ford and exactly how we are going to make that happen. Stay tuned. So the problem with classic vehicles like this 1960 Ford pickup is that they really can't keep up with modern day traffic, work demands, they didn't last as long, all kinds of things. They look good, but if you want to get in your truck and drive it and enjoy it, you're going to be there's going to be much left to be desired, because these trucks just weren't made for the modern day context. They were made for what they were back in 1960 in this case. And so what we're going to do with this build is we're actually going to take the old sheet metal, the thing that makes it look cool, the cab, the bed, the front end, and we're going to merge it with some modern day amenities. And what I mean by that is we're going to place this on, or we have already placed it on, a more modern day chassis with some heavier duty suspension, axles, frame, and then we're also going to install an engine that can keep up with the work demands that this truck is going to be experiencing. So to start, we'll talk about the frame and chassis. So if you look inside the wheel well here, you will notice there's a couple things that don't look very factory. First of all, is this coil spring and the shock, and if you can see back here past the wheel well is this radius arm. So the reason why this all looks different is because, of course it is. This is a 2008 Ford F250 Super Duty chassis and axles. The reason why we went this way is the front end is incredibly durable. It's extremely tough. The axles from the factory, they're overbuilt and are more than capable of meeting the demands of what this truck is going to be doing. I prefer to have things be a little bit beefier and stronger than what the vehicle is going to be doing. That way it can last that much longer. The intentions of this truck is going to really be surrounding, being able to tow a small camper, going camping, going off-road. If it needs to drive down the freeway, going to a big city or through, cross country, it'll be able to do that, no problem. And so with this frame and suspension setup, it rides really well. The Super Duties, they do have a really good ride, especially for how heavy duty they are. It's not going to be a supercar, and that's okay. That's not what the intention of this build is. But with this 2008 Ford chassis, not only is it going to be more reliable, not only is it going to be able to have better consistency on-road driving and off-road driving capabilities, but also if anything ever wears out, which it's going to, ball joints, tie rods, suspension components, it's going to be a lot easier to source parts for a 2008 Ford chassis than it is a 1960 Ford that is completely custom because it had to be built to experience the demands that this truck is already going to do. So instead of trying to convert the original frame and chassis over to meet the demands of what this truck is going to be experiencing, we're going this route so that it's more reliable. There's hundreds of thousands of these trucks on the road with this frame, and they more than meet the demands that this truck is going to have. And so it makes so much more sense, and it's going to be a lot easier. It has been a lot easier to make this truck body fit on this truck frame, and we'll go over that in more detail in a little bit. We're going to be using the bottom portion of the radiator support from the original Super Duty truck from 2008. We're going to graft that into the radiator support for the 1960 truck. That way the fenders can bolt all together on the front end, and the radiator can be sourced easily. The radiator for the Super Duty was just way too big. We tried to do it, but it just isn't going to work. We're going that route for the radiator support again, and it's going to use the Super Duty bushings. So if they ever need replaced, those are easy to source. On the cab, we moved the front cab mounts up and forward just a little bit to match up with the cab mounts going into the cab of the 1960 truck. And that was actually a pretty straightforward process trying to get those to fit. I didn't want the truck to sit super high up on the frame so that when you look underneath, it's really obvious that there's some kind of modern day chassis sitting underneath it. I prefer the truck bodies to sit lower onto the frame, so it's actually harder to see something sticking out the bottom. That's just a personal preference of mine. I like for builds to not be obviously custom. So that wraps up the front end here. Let's go ahead and move on to the rear end suspension. Okay, so this 1960 Ford pickup is a factory short bed truck, and that does make our job a little bit more difficult because the frame that is now sitting on the 2008 Ford Super Duty, we're going from a 1960 Ford single cab short bed pickup, so very short truck, and then the frame that it's sitting on is a 2008 Ford extended cab long bed frame. So there's a lot of space in there. And it's actually kind of funny because the rear suspension, the leaf springs, they're so much more heavy duty, but because they're so long, it's going to ride so much better. But because they're so long, it's actually, the leaf springs actually go from basically the front of the bed to the back of the bed. So luckily they're not too long, but this does actually work really well. It would work a lot more easily if the 1960 Ford truck was also a long bed, but this is a short bed pickup, so it's going to look pretty cool when it's all done. And we were able to make everything fit up. Everything's just kind of mocked in. The bed is literally just sitting on top of the frame right now. And so, nothing's bolted down, but we just needed to get the proportions right and get it located so that we know that we can move forward from here. Now, because this is a 1960 single cab truck, made it on an extended cab long bed, there is some shortening and extending that needs to happen. Let's go to the middle of the truck that you probably noticed is a big gaping hole, and let's talk that over. So the biggest challenge with this build is obviously how to make this gap work. Now, it would be easy to just take the front of the bed and the back of the cab, measure the difference, and shorten the frame to account for that. Unfortunately, that's not what we're going to do because we are going to be utilizing the factory 2008 gas tank, and that gas tank comes out. I'll put a B-roll of it sitting underneath the frame before we took it out, but it comes, I think it comes to about right here on the frame, right below this rear cab mount. And so if we were actually going to shorten the distance, this total distance from the front of the bed to the back of the cab, it's 49 inches. And if we were to do that, it would actually shove the gas tank into the front suspension, that radius arm, and it would also run it into the transfer case that we're going to be using. So it makes things a little bit more challenging. We want to keep as much factory Super Duty components as we can so that it's easy to source parts that can fail in the future. And so, trying to figure out what to do. Now, the solution that we've actually come out to is we're going to shorten the frame, not as much as the 49 inches. We're only going to shorten it 33 inches. And that is because we're also going to be making this cab an extended cab, and we're going to extend it another 16 inches. Now, this accomplishes a lot of different tasks, a lot of different goals for this project. The cab, it needs to be a little bit bigger. It's from front to back when you're sitting in it. The steering wheel is really close. Your knees are kind of up high. The cabs were not built to be very big, and so they can feel a little cramped. And if this is going to be going on long road trips, it's nice to be able to stretch out a little bit and have a more comfortable riding experience. So that accomplishes that task, but also it increases the amount of storage capacity on the inside. We're not going to be putting rear seats in, but if dogs need to be hauled in the back seat or in the back portion, or if camping gear needs to be put in there, anything that you don't want sitting out in the bed during transport, you can put into the cab. There's a lot of different reasons to make this an extended cab. And so I'm really excited to be covering that when we get to that point of making this an extended cab, because I think there's going to be a lot to be learned there, and I'm really excited to dive into that part of it. So by the way, if you guys like this build, if you like where this is going, if you like the start of it, because obviously we haven't done much to it, but if you like where this is going, then go ahead and please subscribe. Hit that bell so you guys get notifications for new videos coming up, because we're going to be doing a lot of work to this truck, and that'd be really great if you could support the channel in that way. So that's the goal here, is to make up the difference of this 49 inches. 33 inches is going to get cut out of the frame. 16 inches is going to get added to the cab. It's actually 49.5 inches. So if we take out 33 inches, there'll still be a ½ inch gap between the front and the back. And then this rear mount here, this original Super Duty extended cab rear cab mount, is actually going to, once the frame is shortened, I'm going to move this mount under where the cab is right now, so we can get that fully located, and then the cab can fully bolt down. That'll be really important for when we go ahead and do the extended cab portion of this build. So I think that covers this big ugly gap right here. I guess we can move on to drivetrain. So if you've been wondering what is going to be powering this behemoth of a truck, it's going to be this 4-cylinder Cummins Diesel, also known as the 4BT. This came out of a bread van truck, and it has the very hard to find 4-cylinder P-pump that is on it. So this motor is going to be built up to be a little bit overstock, not too much. Obviously, when you add too much power to these motors, you actually decrease the longevity of the powertrain itself. And we don't necessarily want to do that. We want to make this reliable and last a long time. But we also wanted to put out a little bit more power over the stock values that these usually have. Behind it is a 5-speed GetRag Dodge transmission, and then it's also back behind that is going to be a Ford round pattern MP205 married transfer case. That way we can run power to the front axle and the on these Super Duties, the differentials on the driver's side. So that'll allow us to run a really good exhaust system out of this with a bigger turbo and have a lot more space over here on this side of the truck. Now, these motors, they have a tendency to be very rattly, they can shake the cab a lot. That's usually the biggest complaint with these engines. And so we're actually going to go with some, I'll put a link in the description, but like a liquid-filled engine mount to help dampen the vibrations that this engine is going to be putting out. There's also going to be the same kind of liquid-filled harmonic balancer in the front. So this engine is going to get rebuilt. Right now, it's just it's sitting in the frame. I have already gone through and mocked up engine mounts for it, and so I'm actually going to be getting those. I did it with 3D printing, and so now I can go ahead and get the metal cut out, and that way we can fully mount it. But in the meantime, I can take the engine out to get it sent off for rebuild, and then I'm going to start first thing on shortening the frame and extending the cab. That will be the first or the next big portion of this project. I wanted to get this introductory video in place for those who want to follow along, so that you can see where we're starting and you can see where we're going, and then from here, this is where all the fun stuff happens, like shortening the frame, extending the cab. How am I going to do that? How's this all going to work? Those are things that I want to be able to showcase, and I'm really excited about it. So if you guys like where this project is starting, if you want to see where it's going to continue to go, I'm really excited to do this project and to share it. So if you can, please like and subscribe and hit the bell so you guys can get notifications on more updates on this project. And I look forward to seeing you guys in the next video. And in the next video, that's where the work's really going to get started. So thank you guys for sticking through this talking video. There's really not a whole lot going on in it, but I really do appreciate you sticking through it all, and I hope to see you in the next video.